the end of week 3 of this half marathon training block, and I hit a bit of a milestone. Welcome to another video. This week I want to talk about some training techniques and practices that used to be some of the first things I'd cut corners on if I was pressed for time. But the first thing I want to talk about is using a race as a training session. This is something I've seen elite runners do regularly, but I'd never considered doing it myself. I'm coming to the end of my Sunday long run, so I'm going to cool down and stretch and leave you to check out a race I entered last week. So I'm on my way to a 10k race, but today's a race day with a difference. I'm going to use today's event. It's kind of a fancy training session really. So I've arrived and registered bib number 143. So that's a lucky number. But yeah, this race is not going to be a all-out race for me, so I decided to build it into my half marathon training block and do a progression run, starting off at a reasonably modest pace and then building up hopefully to somewhere around 10k pace. Hopefully having a lot of runners around me will help with that. So I've just finished this warm-up jog. It's drills and strides. Then it was time to lace up and smash 4 laps of a 2.5 kilometre course before the bad weather set in again, all while trying to avoid this really angry dog. I settled into half marathon pace alongside my friend Seamus during the first lap, and it was a novelty to spend the first part of a race catching up with a mate. I realised I was going to enjoy this new training experience. Although it was 4 2.5 kilometre laps, I was splitting my watch at the 2k marks and stepping up the pace with each one. With the halfway mark approaching and more gear changes ahead of me, it was nice to hear some race day support that you just wouldn't get on a normal training run.
Nearly halfway, time to pick up the pace!
And despite picking up the pace, I was still enjoying myself enough to show how cool I am with some finger guns.
There he is!
At this point I was starting to reel people in, and as the pace increased, I tried to focus on the next runner rather than how much my legs and lungs might start hurting. Although with 500 metres left of the third lap, I was closing in on the final one and still feeling pretty good.
Ready to go.
Then, half a k into the final lap, I was hitting my last 2k split and it was time to up the ante again, but my legs didn't quite respond how I'd hoped. While I was able to increase my speed slightly, I couldn't quite find that 10k pace.
Here he comes!
But I hit the finish line with a very respectable sub 40 minute time, bagging myself a great training session, a medal and a cream egg. And with that, it was time to cool down, then get myself changed and ready to eat the biggest pizza you've ever seen.
2 days later.
Overall, I'm pretty happy with how I executed that as a progression run. But originally I'd planned to set out slightly slower than half marathon pace and then hopefully hit my 10k PB pace for that last 2k split. Looking at the numbers here, you can see I didn't quite manage that. I actually set out at my goal half marathon pace. On the day that felt pretty good, and I fell into that trap of thinking I was capable perhaps of a bit more than I am. So you can see that my 7th and 8th kilometre were only fractionally faster than my 5th and 6th. And although I managed to step that up for the 9th and 10th kilometre, it was still about 8 seconds per kilometre off my 10k PB pace. Although I can't be too hard on myself because I got a solid 10k of work in, and it was a real confidence boost to find out that I could run a sub 40 while feeling pretty comfortable during the first half of that. I definitely found that a race day environment massively helped spur me on for what was essentially just a training session, and I pushed myself harder than I probably would have if I was just running that progression run by myself. So I can totally see why the elites do it, and I'll definitely be doing it again in future training blocks. So while I won't be using a race as a training session every week of this training block, some of the other training principles I have adopted for every run and made non-negotiable in this block are activations before every run, including easy runs, proper warm-ups, and drills before every session. And this is really going to help maximise my training because it means that, especially during those tougher sessions, I'm not spending the first 2 or 3 reps just getting into the groove that I need to be in to hit my paces on my splits. So yeah, that's week 3 in the books. Thanks for joining me again. I look forward to sharing more of what I'm trying to implement into my training over the coming weeks. I hope you come along with me. If you've liked this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching.